Our son was 5 years old when he was diagnosed with osteosarcoma. He had been complaining of his ankle hurting for several months, and we had several doctors tell us that it was just a non-cancerous cyst and that it would reabsorb and not to worry about it. But when we went for surgery to empty out the cyst and refill it, they came in and said that it was not benign, it was malignant and most likely osteosarcoma. They said we'd be looking at high doses of aggressive chemotherapy and possible amputation. We started chemotherapy about a month later, and he was inpatient more than he was outpatient. We'd spend 3 to 4 days at a time to do his chemotherapy treatments, and it was about 3 months later that we did end up having to do the amputation surgery. They gave us options to save his leg, but they were not very good options. His ankle would have been fused, he wouldn't have been able to run or jump, and it would have been more likely for the cancer to come back. He finished treatment about 10 months after diagnosis, and he's been cancer-free ever since.
So we started out with a brand new baby, 2-week-old. We had a 2-year-old, and Jonah was diagnosed at 5. So 2 weeks old, 2 years old, and 5-year-old. Imagine the drama that you have in the house with a brand new baby, and the drama you have with a 2-year-old in the house, and now add a cancer child to that also. Not living at the house. We spent 10 months doing chemotherapy. We used to joke that we lived a separated life because we kissed each other in the evening, and one went home and one stayed at the hospital, just depending on how it worked out with work and different things like that. And so it was a constant battle to juggle everything.
We tried to keep things as normal as possible. Tried to keep, if we got Jonah ready for bed, we got Judah ready for bed too. Even though Judah didn't stay at the hospital, we still tried to keep things as normal as possible and as happy as possible. And we think that Jonah came through things a lot easier the way that he did because of that. I mean, it's terrible, and it was the hardest thing that we'd ever gone through, but to try to keep him okay through it and not to let fear take over him, we tried to keep it lighthearted. Jonah's now 11 years old. He's been cancer-free for 5.5 years. He has a prosthetic leg, and if we could see him today and how well he gets around and runs and plays, that decision to amputate his leg would have been so much easier. Just facing that as a parent when your child's 5 years old, even how to tell them what's going to happen when they go into surgery, you just can't even imagine. And Jeremy did a wonderful job telling him, preparing him for a new leg. But he's doing great now. He has gone through 8 prosthetics and is getting fitted for his 9th.
So how do you tell your kid they're going to cut his leg off? I began by introducing it at the dinner table. First time I did, I hadn't told Amy, and I said, Mama, I said, have you heard about them people with a new leg? And she just teared up and she just left the dinner table. And but we talked about it, and we kept doing it each night, and we talked about how people had new legs and what they were doing with it. And this was a conversation just between me and her. And so the kids were hearing it in the background, but we weren't engaging them at all. And after a week or so of that, we began to engage them in the conversation and talk about how people rock climb and do all kinds of sports with these new legs. And eventually we worked into actually watching YouTube videos of all these cool things that the people were doing. And so eventually one day, him and I were talking, and we were talking about the new legs, and and I told him, I said, the doctors feel like that that's probably a good idea for you to have a new leg too. And he looked up at me and he said, is that what you think's best, Daddy? And I said, yeah, I think it is. He said, okay, now can I go play? And that was it. It was a beautiful thing that he had heard it, he had understood it, and he trusted his daddy enough to make a good decision, and he went off and stuff. So
slowly questions came like,
yeah.
Will I be able to feel my toes? And of course the answer is no, you won't be able to feel your toes. And will it hurt after surgery? And yeah, it's gonna hurt, but there'll be medicine that helps. So the questions did come later, but they came gradually. Every few days or so, he'd ask a new question. It is common with one of the chemotherapy drugs that he received to have high frequency hearing loss. So Jonah has high frequency hearing loss in both ears. He can hear pretty well, but without the hearing aids, it's very obvious in his speech that he can't hear very well, and we know that he misses a lot of what we say without the hearing aids. But it's mainly the hard sounds like T's and S's. He can't tell if a word is plural when he doesn't have his hearing aids on. So it's very important for him to have those hearing aids, especially in school. He did go through speech therapy, and he goes through physical therapy. Right now he's not neither one, but he'll go back to physical therapy after he gets his new prosthetic. When Jonah was first diagnosed, he was on SoonerCare, and when he was first diagnosed, my thoughts went through, is Jonah gonna survive this? Is my family gonna survive this? Are we gonna lose our home? Because surely SoonerCare won't cover this kind of medical care for our child. Because, you know, you hear that it's millions, or, you know, at least thousands. It's so astronomical. And we were a young family. We were in our mid to late 20s. It was a very scary thing. And then whenever I found out that SoonerCare was going to help us and Jonah was going to get the care that he needed, the therapies that he needed to recover from this, we were not at a financial point that we could have afforded his care to get him to the point that he's at today. So we are very thankful. Can you tell them what you're making?
A bracelet.
Why are you making bracelets?
For childhood cancer, to raise money.
To raise money? For people that make donations?
Yeah.
Yeah? Can you tell them about this? What is this?
It's a gold ribbon.
Gold ribbon?
Yeah.
What does the gold ribbon stand for?
Childhood cancer.
Childhood cancer. Can you tell them about your leg?
I had bone cancer whenever I was 5, and they had to cut it off and to get a fake one, and I can do a lot of fun things now.
What kind of fun things?
I can run, jump, kayak, everything.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You like to climb
Yeah.
and swim?
Yeah.
Jump in Jupiter jumps?
Yeah.
Sometimes. Is there anything you can't do? No? Do you have anything that you'd like to tell other kids that might have cancer?
Good luck.
Jonah was able to receive the benefits of SoonerCare thanks to the TEFRA program.